Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Stephen Sacker. Women in the movie industry have taken the lead in a movement for equality, respect, and an end to abusive male behavior. The mantra "Me Too" has become a cultural phenomenon in the United States. But how far can it reach? Well, my guest today is Pakistan's biggest female movie star, Mahira Khan. In a culturally conservative, male-dominated country, can she be an agent of change? Mahira Khan, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Is this a good time to be a female actor in Pakistan?
Yes, I would say so. I think it's a good time to be a female in this world at the moment. But it's a good time for us.
In Pakistan, being female and being in the public eye as you are, it's quite a sensitive place to be.
Yes, I would say it used to be. It used to be. Right now, I don't think it's sensitive to be in the public eye. I think that it's sensitive, or it's a little bit challenging to break barriers, to sort of do the things that you want to do, you know?
And there's a particular question about the movie industry, because I was looking at some astounding figures. Going back to the 50s and 60s, there were hundreds, I believe there were more than 1,000 cinemas in Pakistan. And then by the late 70s and early 80s, after the rule, or during the rule of General Zia, the number of cinemas plummeted down to a low of something like 45, and you're only just creeping up again.
Yes.
So cinema and going to the movies in Pakistan is a tradition that has been lost to many people.
That's actually a good way to put it, lost, because it was there once upon a time, right? And then we suffered through, I guess politics affected it, and there was a lull, which what it did was, it did two things. One, of course, cinema got lost somewhere in all of this. The second thing it did, which was a good thing, was that all these writers and actors started coming towards television. That's why currently, and for very many years, we have a very, very strong television industry. Because all these people didn't really know where to go, and all of the arts sort of converged into TV.
But it's not just about changing media, is it? It's also about cultural conservatism. I mean, Pakistan has been swept by a sort of a cultural conservatism which has militated against free expression in the cinema. And that's really a problem for people like you.
Right. So that's exactly what the generation before me went through. By the time I came around, even actually while I was working, my debut film was probably one of 2 or 3, maybe 5 films that came out that year. I think that's a large number that I'm quoting there, I think. But right after that, because again of the political climate, it changed. There was freedom as far as media was concerned. People were coming in, people were trying to invest into films, and today we are sort of on the path of a huge revival as far as cinema is concerned.
The question is, what kind of cinema? You're here in London to mark the release at a film festival of your movie Verna, which is a fascinating example of what is and isn't possible in Pakistani cinema today. It centres on you, you're the female lead character, and Sarah, your character, is raped. How difficult was it to make that movie in Pakistan and to believe that it would find an audience in Pakistan?
Well, it wasn't difficult to make it. The man who made it, he's made 2 previous films. The first one was Khuda Ke Liye, which again, people at that time were like, wow, what is this? It was a brilliant film, but touched on very sensitive topics, you know, whether it was religion, whether it was politics, whether it was about how we treat women in our society. All of that was touched upon in Khuda Ke Liye. Then he came out with Bol.
We should say Shoaib
Mansoor. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, he's one of Pakistan's leading film directors and respected around the world now.
Yes, respected around the world. And then came Bol, which touched on even more sensitive issues. And then now he's made Verna. So making of it with a man like Shoaib Mansoor was not difficult, because that's what he does.
There's a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie which you made a point, I think, of tweeting out. It says, everything in this film is imaginary. Imaginary because the reality is too bitter to be told or shown. Events shown in this film are like jokes compared to what has been happening in countries like ours. Was this a film made out of anger?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I can speak for him. He will never ever speak out himself, because he doesn't. Once he wraps a film, he sort of goes back home and shuts his doors. So I know this, that it's definitely a film made out of anger and a lot of frustration, for sure.
How do you make accessible rape in a country which, it has to be said, has a problem with sexual violence that is endemic? You know, it's domestic, it is pervasive, and groups in Pakistan, like the Human Rights Commission and others, talk about the reality that a woman is being raped in Pakistan every 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
How do you take that on and respect how deep and ingrained the problem is in your country?
Well, it's difficult, and that's something, before I went on to the sets, that's something that I used to keep thinking about, because fortunately I've not been through something as bad and cruel as rape. So I was very worried, because there were so many people who were going to watch it. For me as an actor, I really did not know how I can sort of bring justice to something that was written like that, right? And also, there wasn't a scene which showed the rape, so there was no visual representation of the rape. Shoaib Saab did not want me to cry. There were times he'd be like, no, 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 you're doing too much. I don't want you to cry. I want you to be angry. So I played it angry, almost how he wanted me to play it, almost how he looked at rape. That's how I played it.
So we're talking about anger driving the making of the film, but I imagine there was a new level of anger when you and Shoaib Mansoor heard that the Board of Censors in Pakistan was going to ban the movie.
Yes, yes. Of course. I mean, I was, yeah, more than anger, because I'll tell you what, as much as Shoaib Saab was angry, I looked at it from a very different point of view. I couldn't believe it. Every time I would read the stats, every time I would go onto forums, it would just keep breaking my heart, you know. So when this happened, when I got a call and they told me that it might get banned, the first thought in my head was, not again. Because if this were to happen, this would be the second film of mine that would have been banned that year, you know.
And yet you told me it's a great time to be a female actor in Pakistan.
I'll tell you why it is, though. Because, and this is something about the ban of Varna. Someone asked me yesterday, they said, you know, what do you say about the ban of Varna? I said, well, you look at it as it being banned. I look at it as it being nearly banned and then being released. Because here was a time, I don't know what it would have been 10 or 20 years before, you know, with Pakistan and how it would have fared. I don't know that. All I know is that my film was nearly going to get banned, and the entire country, journalists, activists, women and men together came out, whether it was on social media or on TV. However, they came out and said, we're not going to let you ban this.
Do you feel so bleak about Pakistan today that women who have undergone these terrible experiences get no sort of resolution or justice or serious accountability from the political system, from the community? Because your character in the movie, she has to take her vengeance herself, and it is violent and it is horrible.
Yes.
Is that the message you're telling me about Pakistan today?
No, I'm not. That's not the message I'm telling you. And I'm not saying this so that you know, I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to fluff it up and tell you that that does not happen. Of course it happens. You have the statistics right in front of you, right? But right after Varna, I mean, the Zainab case just happened. The little girl who got raped. And again, everybody came out. Everybody spoke about it.
But it doesn't stop it happening.
No, it eventually does. See, this is the problem. There are two things, and I keep talking about this. This is not a Pakistan-centric epidemic. This is a world over problem. And how do we stop it? I mean, look at us. We have the best, as far as we are concerned, we have the correct judiciary sitting there, we have police, we have everything. And still we are not able to stop it. So somewhere I feel we are failing on two levels, you know. I feel we do not have gross level education and awareness about this. You know, there are so many, I mean, if you read up more about this, so many of these cases, whether it's abuse or rape, takes place inside their own homes. And then there is shame attached to it. So, and these things do not get over in one day. You know, we keep talking about change, and I've been saying this, even in Hollywood, they keep saying, you know, real change is coming about. I think real conversation is what's happening right now.
Well, conversation, it's an interesting point, and I have noticed that since the
Yes.
Weinstein thing broke in America, there have been some very prominent Pakistani women who have begun to speak in public about their own experiences
Right.
and being abused, for
Right.
example, as children. There's Freya Altaf, Nadia Jamil,
Right.
Mahim Khan.
Yes.
All of them have been very honest, and one of them actually said what is disturbing in Pakistan in the recent past is the silent acceptance of women. Our society has not taught us in the past to deal with this competently.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Do you personally feel that too?
If you ask me personally, I came from a home where I was allowed to I had the freedom of choice. I was told that don't feel ashamed if something like this happens to you. Scream, come to me, talk to me, tell me. So my mother taught me that. She is a teacher herself. I was aware of these things. Post that, I lived in America for a while. So I consider myself very lucky, actually, because I have basic awareness. I have the exposure to understand these things. But we're talking about Pakistan at large here. And yes, there is a problem because we attach, you know, honor and shame, all these words, they're so misconstrued.
Well, let me ask you something personal. I mean, obviously we've talked about sexual violence because your movie's about that subject, but there are many other ways in which I wonder whether the Pakistani movie industry, the culture, is ready to recognize different ways in which women live their lives. For example, you know, it's personal, but you're a divorcee. You've
Yes.
raised a son single-handedly.
Yes.
Now, do you believe that recognition of the strength, the independence, the resilience of modern Pakistani women is properly reflected in the culture of your country?
Well, you're sitting opposite me, and I am being interviewed by you. And as you said, I am a single mother. I'm a divorcee. I'm a single mother sitting right here in front of you. I am a reflection of my country, also a reflection. So while...
Or are you seen by some as an anomaly? Oh, she's westernized, she had an education in the US, she's privileged, she's different.
I'll tell you something. I am, if I say so myself, I don't think, of course I'm sure I appeal to the classes as well, but I believe that I appeal to the masses of my country. How is it possible that I appeal to the masses if I am so different from them?
We've talked about all of the sensitivities in Pakistan for you, trying to express yourself freely in the country today. It's not, though, just about gender issues, is it? There are also extraordinary sensitivities in the film industry in particular that come with Pakistan's vexed relationship with India.
Yes.
Now, you are at the center of this in a way because you had a breakout career moment a couple of years ago when you made a movie, Race, which was a classic, big-budget Bollywood movie.
Yes.
With Shah Rukh Khan, one of Bollywood's biggest stars, and yet it all went horribly wrong. How gravely disappointing has your experience of the tensions between India and Pakistan as they affect the movie business been?
To be honest, I was more excited about Race releasing in Pakistan than anywhere else, because all I wanted was to sit there with my best friends, you know, and Aslan, my child, and the audience, and watch this. And I didn't get to.
You couldn't.
I couldn't. So yes.
But you know why you couldn't? Because the Pakistani censorship board deemed that Race was an ugly, horrible, unacceptable depiction of Muslims.
I think that if Race was released at any other time, I think this would not have been banned. Because again, these are a handful of people deciding it. And I think their decisions sometimes are based on things that don't even concern the film sometimes. So, you know, I don't think that was the reason.
They said it was the reason.
They said it, but I don't know. I don't know if Race released today, would it have been released? Because I did.
Well, in a way, things have gotten even worse since then. I mean, you made the movie, and then very shortly after you made it, the Indian film industry declared that Pakistanis were persona non grata as actors or contributors at all to their movie industry.
Right.
So you couldn't even go and promote the movie in India.
Yes, yes. So it was a two-way thing. We got stuck under the political fire, really. Nothing else. But we, by the way, Pakistan's still showing Indian films. We haven't banned Indian films at all.
Well, some are banned. I mean, it's a very intermittent and sporadic thing, but frankly, the Pakistani film industry, it seems to me, depends upon Indian movies. I mean, your cinemas get more audience for Bollywood movies than any other, and yet, because of politics, many of these movies are now not shown in Pakistan. I mean, we talked about anger earlier. As an artist and an actor, how angry do you get that you are caught in this political crossfire?
Well, at that time, yes, I was angry. I was sad and angry, and there were moments of disappointment and just hurt, you know. Now I've come to a place where I believe that anger doesn't really, you know, make me a better actor. It doesn't do anything for me as a person. So I've let go of that, because at that time I was in the mix of it.
You could argue it's sort of stalled your career, because you were on trajectory to become a major Bollywood as well as Pakistani film star, and now you cannot be that.
Well, no, you know, Bollywood was never really the aim, actually. I mean, sure, you could argue that I could have done more films there. For sure I could have. But right after Race, I had already started working on Varna, even before all of this happened. So my focus was always Pakistan.
Let's be honest, I mean, the Pakistani film audience we've discussed is sizable again now, and the movie industry is reviving, but it is a dwarf compared to the massive machine that is the Indian film industry. So if you want to reach hundreds of millions of people and become a megastar, you need to be a star in Bollywood as well as in Pakistan, and now it seems that route is cut off for you, and I just wonder how bitterly disappointed you feel.
Well, at that time I did. At that time I did. But I'll tell you what, like, I can't explain it. I'm sure from your point of view that seems to be a very big jolt. And yes, at that time it was. But currently I just feel it's just something else to be working and be part of this movement of the film industry at the moment. Because how I look at it is that 20 years from now, when you know, either my son or kids from today want to become actors, we would have set, you know, this industry for them, which they won't have to struggle so much.
It seems to me that, you know, there's such sort of insecurity on both sides of this dispute, both in Pakistan and in India, each insecure about the other. And you, when you try to sort of form cultural partnerships across that border, you get caught up in it. One specific I'm thinking about is, I think a website or somebody got hold of a picture of you sharing a moment, a cigarette with an Indian actor off set.
Right.
In Pakistan, social media went nuts. So many people were hugely critical of you. How dare she, you know, and why is she hanging out with an Indian? How much pressure do you feel?
Yes, so that was the first time actually in my entire career that I was caught up in a so-called controversy. And it was strange, because there were so many things in that, you know. One, obviously you feel violated. You are in a personal downtime moment and someone has just photographed you. Two, obviously there was an uproar, because here I was, someone who was extremely loved in Pakistan, and they consider me, you know, they sort of keep me up on this pedestal, you know. They treat me with a lot of love and a lot of respect. And there's certain things which I didn't realize that they don't want to see me do. At that point, yes, it was, it was crazy, honestly, because it lasted for a while. It became a national topic, a national debate, every channel. It was crazy, it was ridiculous. But what has happened post that is even, I mean, is even better.
You mean the backlash in your favour, people defending you? Yeah, well, I understand
saw that, right?
Yeah, no, I've seen that. I understand that. But I suppose we've skirted around this, but I have to ask you directly. In Pakistan today, the religious authorities and extremely conservative imams in particular, they still hold an enormously powerful sway in the country. I'm just looking at an extraordinary quote here from Maulana Shirani of the Council for Islamic Ideology, criticizing laws in Punjab which are specifically designed to protect women from abuse. He said the clauses in this particular bill, you know, defending the rights of women, will eventually lead to the breakup of society. This is the Pakistan you live in.
No, I think that's a very myopic view of Pakistan. I think that is a quote from a man in Pakistan. I do not look at Pakistan like that. Otherwise, again, like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here. Sharmeen Obaid wouldn't be winning an Oscar. You know, there are so many others. And, you know, sometimes, like I'm sitting in front of you, sometimes I feel, do I even deserve to be sitting in front of you? There are so many people you can interview who have done so many more greater things in Pakistan, who are probably not recognized.
Well, you know, I've been to Pakistan a couple of times. We've interviewed human rights workers, we've interviewed politicians, we've interviewed all sorts of Pakistanis. But it strikes me it's extraordinarily interesting today in 2018 to talk to somebody like you, trying to navigate through.
Right, and this is what I feel will be my win. If I can navigate through, and I can still talk about what's happening and the issues, and show the women and the men, you know, the public of Pakistan, that it is possible, that there are possibilities. Coming back to this quote, I'm not sure who this man is. You told me he was...
the Council of Islamic Ideology is his organization.
So again, look, extremists anywhere, there is a huge problem with that. Anywhere around the world. I mean, we're seeing it with America as well. We're seeing it with first world countries as well. So we have to, I mean, and this is the problem, the disparity that keeps on increasing. And people like me, we're the middle ground. We have to sort of bring it together.
But do you ever, in a darker moment, think to yourself, you know what, if my desire to work with Indian colleagues in Bollywood is being thwarted, if some of the subject matter that I really want to address in Pakistan is becoming extraordinarily difficult, and, you know, yes, Verna was unbanned, but your next movie, who knows, if it's a difficult topic, it might be banned.
Please don't say that.
Do you ever, in your darker moments, think, you know what, as an artist, I don't need this. I want to maybe think about moving to the United States or to London, to Europe, because there I'll be able to express myself so much more freely.
I have never thought that, ever. I can't. It's my home, it's my country, and I don't think that I can tell any story better than the story of my own country, than the stories of my own countrymen. Who else would do that? I mean, I want to do that. I want to be able to bring out stories like Verna, as well as stories which are of the modern and new generation, like Home and Jahan, which is a film I did of the youth of Pakistan. So I want to be that person. Also, like you said, because we're artists, and I think that's a problem we all suffer, we're dreamers. So we are constantly looking at, like, this is going to happen. And honestly, this is all I'm thinking about all the time. That one day I will go to a cinema house and there just won't be enough space to fill in.
Mahira Khan, thank you very much for being on HARDtalk.
Thank you.